Yeah, they're
in
dragging.
marijuana.
The driveway would not be approved in a second, yeah.
In anywhere.
It's a.
You guys have a parking space, look at the bottom.
On
Yeah, you can pull over to the side. We have pulled over and walked up. I snowshoed down. We had a friend who came to visit. They didn't even know us, and he was in a rental car and couldn't get up. We didn't even hear it, because we were far enough away to ring, we can't hear. At one point, we see him in his suit, still dragging his pole thing through the snow. Eric, want a drink? Welcome to our house.
We live in the
Glad you can
country.
visit, glad you can visit. Glad you can visit for the weekend.
All right, great.
Good.
Yeah, there it is. Should be up on
Right now.
YouTube.
Okay, we're
We're
doing
good.
All right. Let's get started. Pledge allegiance, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'll do the roll call. Is everybody here who's here? Here. Patrick, member Patrick? Here. Member Lindstrom?
Yep.
Member Grasso?
Present.
Member Zach?
Here.
Member Sam?
Here.
Jones here. Mary Lou Christiana is here as our attorney. Liz Axelson is here as our planner. And Anne Marie Maloney is here as our alternate. Okay, so we have a rather short agenda, but no telling how long this will take.
We're up by
Um,
8.
I listened to our meeting of 2 weeks ago, which was May 9th. And it was quite entertaining in that the first half of it, I had difficulty making out what anybody was saying because we were all talking at just about the same time. So let's try to talk one at a time instead of talking over everybody. And I'll go around the table, which we had done at one time. I'll do that more frequently and give everybody a chance to talk. So if you could let's just wait our time. First item on the agenda is a review of the Ulster County Planning Board comments on Lucky Petroleum. Qatar and Mr. Lucky, why don't you join us? Bring your maps up. You have copies of the comments from Ulster
Yes.
County. Warren was kind enough to take the Ulster County comments and to summarize them here.
No, this is just only a couple of updates to show the.
Okay, before we do that, I just want to, let me set it up. So Warren was kind enough to summarize the comments, replicate the comments, and then give a potential response, her response, and our job tonight is to click it around with the applicant. If there are other changes that you want to talk about first, you mention them, but I'm assuming we've already been over them.
Minor.
You made the changes that we asked for, presumably.
A note about the light, women in the light.
Right.
A detail for the striping of the crosswalk.
Right, you talked,
And
right.
the individual sheet that shows the existing sign is now on the plan.
Okay, so that was all we asked for. That's great. All right.
And I got the waiver letter for the park.
Okay, you want to pass that up?
I only have original one copy, so. you want-
Send them both up.
Give them.
Let Mary Lou, our attorney, take a look at them. And we'll enter them into the record. All right, so Mark and, oh, I'm sorry, Mark, you went to the
Long project.
loan project, sorry.
Last one.
So the first comment by the Ulster County was the applicants, let's go page by page, comment by comment. Applicants proposing to modify the existing curb cuts and traffic patterns for the site. Truck turning templates have been provided. Site also indicates proposed drive-through with no vendor name supplied with 2 of 9 vehicles. Plans also indicate a future sidewalk along the frontage. So the county is indicating that you need to obtain commercial highway work permit from New York State Department of Transportation. Presumably different from, do you have the comments there from the county?
Yes.
Okay.
This is an existing commercial curb cut that exists. What happened is something called permit 30B, which is a modification to an existing curb cut. That's a type of permit that DOT would require when this construction happens. It should not affect the approval. And you can have that as conditions of the approval, saying that.
That's what I wrote out.
DOT. But as far as DOT, looking at the plan and giving it all the 2 cents on it, that happened at the other stage. We had a letter, from John Riley.
Did the DOT ask for you to do any kind of queuing or stacking estimates?
Nothing was suggested there.
All right, and then the county made a comment about the sidewalk, and I know we took care of that. We had an extensive discussion about that. So, Martin, would you just summarize your answer to the
Sure.
county?
So since if it's a required modification, that we have to vote on the super majority, we can overrule a required modification. It's just a suggestion, we just comment on it. So my response was, I partially agree with the vote if we do not agree with the elements. Obtaining commercial highway work permit from New York State DOT shall be condition of approval before we get the CO. And we standardly would write, as you just said, any and all other agency permits or approvals which are currently required or any which may be determined to be required in conjunction with the construction and or operation which shall be further renewed as applicable to any conditions imposed by the agencies, permit, cause conditions to be in conflict and more restrictive conditions up to there. So we just make it a condition of approval.
Okay.
Next one is that they mentioned,
And are we getting rid of, there was a condition in this, we replace that with this location?
well, there's no condition on any of this. This is a response to.
Oh, no, okay, never
This
mind.
is a
I'll figure it
response
out.
that we have to, we have to do a separate thing that responds to the Ulster County Planning Board. The other part was, they mentioned, trees, additional street trees in their comment here. The town of Rochester landscaping code 140-15 requires at least one deciduous tree every 35 feet. A condition of approval shall be the addition of additional trees along the landscaping strips to comply with 140-15 6. All other size criteria for landscaping, other elements of 140-15 shall be adhered to, and landscape bonding, we already discussed this, shall be a condition of approval. And I guess we need to write something in the decision that's up to you, about you, Mary Lou, reviewing the landscape
Well,
bonding.
Right,
So-
under our code,
Under our code.
it's subject to attorney
Subject to
approval.
attorney question. So that's, so my question more was on this, I just wrote it like that. I couldn't see how many, I can't do the like,
Well,
how many trees per whatever were there. And if we think
When I met
we
with
should
the
have more or
talk,
less or just override it.
I think we should just override it. We've got plenty of trees there. I can't say they're exactly 35 feet. They're closer in some cases. They're further away in a few
But
cases.
it's spotty though.
There's more shrubs in there, woody shrubs, which isn't a tree, but, so I'm okay with it. If the board was okay, we looked at this last time, you all are okay with it. I think the one thing we missed, Qatar, was the code talks about landscaping around the signs, at the foot of the signs. So you could take one of those shrubs and just a couple of them, put them there. If that's sufficient, if that's okay with you, it's sufficient for us. That'll take care of that portion of the code. The stuff that I gave you was easy to maintain and it's pretty much vehicle.
And then the other, so we would probably do it, Mary Lou, you know better, obviously.
so we're gonna override the.
We'll override the tree along frontage bit. We will just say, yes, we agree with that, a required modification of the work permit, because you have to do what everybody says you should do. And then on the sidewalk, the proposed sidewalk has been reviewed by the New York State Department of Transport and the State Department of Transport recommended labeling as a proposed sidewalk, which has been done by the applicant as the sidewalk is built this time. If a community sidewalk project is undertaken in the future, the applicant shall coordinate review with the New York State DOT.
So I think of the three things that they're talking about, one, we're gonna vote on overriding, which is the landscape. Correct me if I'm wrong, and two of them, we're gonna say we agree, we got it covered with certain verbiage in the decision.
We agree, you get the permit with the new permit. And then the only thing that I didn't know is what we do with this traffic flow study that they're talking about.
But they're talking, yeah, they're talking about doing a queuing study, from what I can gather from this. A queuing study, if there's gonna be enough space for the number of cars potentially. My attitude would be, if that's the fourth one they're recommending, we just override that also. And say that we, in my opinion, we don't need it.
I mean, it's been reviewed by our planner, our engineering firm. DOT is aware of this. And they're all satisfied and we're satisfied as well.
I mean, there's plenty of,
Indeed, that's how you
parking.
feel.
We never saw it before.
yeah, exactly.
On a mixed use, it's already.
It's already there and there's, so I'd
Right.
say
There's
exactly.
a lot of room for the
There's a lot
queuing
of-
on
there's a lot
site.
of
This is a
queuing.
big site.
I think they maybe didn't.
So I'll make a
get-
motion that, that we approve the landscaping as presented by the applicant in our previous meeting, with the addition of additional shrubbery around the base of the signs.
The way we have to do it
Go ahead.
is overruling them.
So my
and
motion
that
should
be the reason.
overrule. How should I word the?
Yeah, your motion should be to overrule the
Okay.
required modification with regard to landscaping. As we feel is sufficient, but we will have them add by the sign.
Okay. What our attorney said.
One more time, I'm making notes, sorry, for,
I figure it's recorded
To rewrite it.
for
I'm making
Nicole
up
to
for
make.
Nicole.
I will never remember exactly how I said it.
Override the landscape with the exception of the modification by the sign.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the motion. Do I have a second?
We have to do a.
Do we do a
roll call
roll
vote,
call?
because
Well,
Have to see
if you want to
what-
make sure that
We
it's
have
a
a super
super majority.
Well, let's just try the first one. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We have a super majority. I'll next make a motion to override the county's recommendation that we do a traffic flow / queuing study. As it's already been, the site is deemed to be large enough and it's already been reviewed by our planning
And
DOT.
and
DOT.
DOT. Thank you. That's my motion. Do I have a second?
You have a second from me?
Mallory? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so you have a super majority on that. So let's go to the next thing, which is signage.
But on this, and then do we need to make a motion that we agree? We don't even make a motion for them.
No,
We just
If
agree
you
with the
agree, you
rest.
just agree. Right, you only have to make motions to override.
All right, signage.
I got the older plans, I didn't see.
They got the only
Right.
guy. So what I wrote was, the proposed sign is approximately 32.4 square feet. That is not required during the consent. The planning board in the regular scheduled planning board meeting of May 9th granted a waiver for the small 1.25% overage and is allowed to do so by code. We can do that 10% variance thing. in our- The planning board further agreed that the height and size of proposed 32.4 square sign was within the guidelines of Town of Rochester 140-21, which specifies 140-21C2, wherever feasible, multiple signs should be combined to avoid clutter. The applicant is combining the petrol station and the drive-through sign. And 140-21C3, signs should be as close to the ground as possible. Monument-style signage is not required by code. And the 15-foot height meets code. I don't even know if I want to bring the bugaboos, because where exactly is the sign? Couldn't find it.
Oh, it's,
It's the same sign that's there, right?
The existing one that we're leaving,
The,
The existing
They
one
have-
still needs to be added to it.
it's right there.
That was added.
No, I mean,
the existing sign, Marion, is gonna be
Yes,
where
on
it
this
is.
here.
It's gonna be in the place with the existing one.
Yeah, there's two signs. There's the existing one, which will continue,
That's the one I.
and this is a new one.
Oh, so that's what the county must be saying, they're adding up.
No, if you add it up, they're okay.
They're just looking at the new one that were, the
Right.
old plan had a bigger sign.
Have a
They
bigger
didn't
sign.
see the one that we shrunk it down.
Right, remember it was like about 80 square feet or
10%.
something.
That's what,
What I'm saying, this could, if you want, this could simply be like, an applicant revised his plan, provided a sign that.
well, that's what I totally agree. The only thing I said, you already covered, Rick, was Large freestanding sign should be landscaped on the sign base, we covered that. And signs that exceed 24 square feet in surface area shall be set back at least 5 feet from the front and sidewalks. If they are, I don't know.
I think they were.
We had it
Definitely
reviewed,
fine.
so I'm gonna say that they were.
That's our, in our code, I was
Say it again?
Yeah.
in our code, it says 140-21 D2. Signs that exceed 24 square feet in surface area shall be set back at least 5 feet from the front and the sidewalk.
It's way
They
in
are.
excess of.
And then this is this weird one we have, 140-21 D3, just the belt and suspenders, in case we need to override this. No sign shall exceed the height of 1/2 its distance from the roadway, regardless of other height limitations. It's always like, you don't know what they're, so that's 30 feet, and could be 30 feet back?
You know what? So why don't, I'd like to handle this whole thing as follows. Let's just answer what the county queried about, and forget about the other requirements that
Yep.
you're bringing up, because our planner reviewed it. If anybody feels we need to give a waiver to that, fine. The issue of the county maybe adding everything up and having a problem with the total square footage, we went through that already.
Totally agree. I just added this in, that everybody should know that this is in our code. The blue stuff that I wrote here was the response to county, so this is
So what I'm gonna do,
superfluous to the county.
I'm gonna make a motion, I'm gonna make a motion to override the county's comment and use the language provided here in response by Maren as the explanation to the county exactly the way you wrote it. That's my motion.
I'll second.
Mark seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, we have a super majority for that. Thanks, Ron.
Then this I designed parking layout. This is an advisory comment. This was there. You already,
I don't know why I didn't like the design, to be honest with
I think the long and the short of,
So,
I looked at that.
I don't know.
you. I looked at Stuart and Lumos, I don't think there was
So,
something.
well-
special.
so this is exactly what I said. Advisory comment. We don't need to vote on this. We just give a response.
You don't even have to respond.
We don't even have to respond, but for the sake of very quickly telling you guys, it's just, no, this is having the pumps in front. And they, because they said the location of it, in our code on 209, we say we want to have the buildings up front and the parking in back. Doesn't really apply when you're at gas station. It applies if you're a lawyer's office or something like that. So I just quickly.
We also may have to use the laundry building can be kind of part of it. It's the same.
Exactly. I said the placement of the pumps in the setback of the structure combined with the large upgraded convenience store, the accessory commercial building and the landscape will greatly improve the parcel and bring it much more in line with our current zoning laws. Our design guidelines for parking in the rear of commercial structures before the street front are more germane for retail, small offices and small medical facilities, etc. It would be highly non-standard to have petrol pumps behind a drive-through and a convenience store. It could cause traffic and pedestrian hazards and an unnecessary burden on the applicant as clients are solely interested in filling their tanks with past better location. The Stewart's on Route 32 in New Paltz is not readily comparable. It's at an intersection, so the pumps are highly visible, and the intersection has a traffic light and crosswalks, making it accessible from 2 streets, more accessible to pedestrians, traffic flow, blah, blah, blah.
so we're gonna,
We don't need any of that.
You don't need
we're
to.
gonna have a big, we're gonna put the,
No response, sir?
well, it's advisory.
We
so
don't
we're
need
not
advisory,
gonna
we don't need
respond. We'll thank them and just, I'll tell them.
And move on.
We nicely disagree. We're gonna put them in the back and
Oh,
have
we have one more.
have somebody
that's
standing in the
Fuel
street
storage.
in a big, with a
Oh,
big
one more.
sign.
I mean,
One
I
more
kept
having to
thinking
do
of
with
the
food
idea
storage.
of people driving around, if it's in the back, crashing into people with Dunkin' Donut bags. and-
They run out your donuts while you're filling out.
Exactly.
Don't you say that it says the principal building situated near the front line, and in this case, you could say the principal building is the half one, and it is.
Exactly. You totally could, but we don't have to say anything. so we
Yeah,
won't say
yeah, right.
anything.
We're not gonna we're not gonna do it.
So on fuel storage, we do have to say something because it's a required modification, need to comply with both controllable storage program, federal regulations on underground tanks, coordinate with the state of permitting, soil testing recommended. As part of the application, new storage tanks enclosing existing tank will be necessary, soil testing may be required again. I said, I agree with the county, a condition of approval shall include the required modifications, but we always say, as we just covered earlier, that you must get all your permits and approvals from other agencies before you get a CO, that's just a whatever. So what we say is all local, county, state, and federal laws and codes shall be complied with for the current or future use of these lands. Any and all other agencies, permits or approvals which are currently required, or any which may be determined in the future to be required to connect with the construction and or operation of this use shall be secured or renewed as applicable, blah, 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 in parentheses, or, I just added, the facility owner shall specifically comply with federal and New York State DEC regulations for underground tank removal and replacement before a C of O shall be issued. Specifically calling out there.
That's the standard.
That's the standard.
So
The
we're gonna,
response is a standard. You comply.
we're gonna agree with the county and give them the verbiage that we're gonna put in the conditions,
Exactly.
which we would do for any project of this sort. And we already had a long discussion, we had a discussion about who's monitoring the tanks, so you guys, you have to
They have
apply
it,
to.
yeah.
So we have to notify DEC anyway.
Right.
So.
So I think we're fine.
They're
with
gonna
both.
notice if you start digging on 209.
No, you have to, by law, you have to give them 30-day notice
Right.
before you take on the tank or put new.
Yeah.
So we've covered all four of the comments.
Right.
Madam Attorney, have we done this properly?
Yeah, you
Do we have to, that's it?
That's it.
you only have to vote on ones that you overrule.
Okay, you drive all the way to Albany.
And how about the waiver? I don't remember if we voted on the waiver.
No, we told them we wanted it in writing.
Okay,
I
we
think
voted.
everybody was kind of okay with it, but we said, let's get it.
We said we needed it in writing first.
Okay, so let me read what they wrote and then we'll vote on it, just to be sure. This is the request for the waiver of the number of parking spots. This letter is to formally ask the planning board to grant a waiver to the number of, to reduce the number of parking spots required by town zoning section 140-17 for this project. The applicant is requesting a waiver to reduce the number of parking spaces by 10, going to a proposed 42 parking spaces instead of the required 52 parking spaces. And I'm summarizing the letter. I'll entertain a motion to approve the waiver
I
to go
will,
from 52 to 42.
I will make a motion to reduce the number of parking spaces.
Maureen?
Second.
Patrick? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, you have your waiver. Okay. And I think you're done.
Yeah, now
So-
on this, we have the
What happens
continued
at
public
the
hearing.
June meeting?
You want to close?
We have,
I
we
No,
can't.
because you have it
It's not going
scheduled for the June meeting.
So what we're gonna do with the June meeting, we'll have a continued public hearing. And then we'll presumably close the public hearing if there are no comments that was concerned with, or the board doesn't come up with anything else.
on. Hopefully have a decision.
And
Yeah,
I think we're gonna have to wait till July. to-
right, or, you know, because the public hearing's still open, you really can't say, oh, here's what our decision's gonna be, and put that on the website beforehand, because obviously we don't
No, but
expect anything new.
I've seen towns where they prepare a draft. There's a
Right, well,
public
I'm not
hearing,
done.
it's
Sorry, I'm not
closed,
done.
and then they come.
I'm not done.
Oh,
However, yeah, and it's hard to have a draft decision when the public hearing's open and put that on the website. However, if our planner is working on this and just happens to have something in case there's no comment, she could bring that out that night, but I don't think it's proper to have a,
But we won't have, she can bring it out, but we won't have it.
no,
Up
but
on the
it's
website.
okay. It's only if you know for sure if you know you're going to consider a resolution, you have to have it on the website 24 hours before. We don't know
Oh,
if we're going to be considering a resolution because we don't know what the public's going to say.
so that's.
Right now, you guys might be all thinking one direction, but the public could come in and, you know, bring up something we just don't know
Well, then
about.
what's the downside of putting a draft out and saying,
In the event we have.
But
no
it seems
public
like
comment.
that, I mean, if we're, I mean, forgive me, but. if
No,
we're
I
being a
understand what
little
you're
cute about it, like, why not just be cute in the favor of like, we had, you know, this is what we're thinking, if people have comments. They can comment,
Revise it.
yeah,
So I think what Sam is proposing.
instead of just like, oh, here's what I happen to have in my pocket, you know, right?
You know what? That happens all the time, that the planner will have something in the event there
Right.
is nothing there. I just think it's,
But then we haven't seen that either.
Well,
No, you would see it and everything.
Well, but if we've circulated it, then
you don't know that you're
Expected.
I know, it's
considering
a
it.
draft.
it's such a stupidly.
Well, that, you know.
Governor Hope is listening, depending on you.
No, but-
Because it's a really
You know, that's why I'm
poorly
telling you, you have
drafted
to.
law. It's
The,
such
the
a
law
dumb-
says if you are, you know, if you're gonna consider
But
this,
what's
you
so
put it-
improper about saying we are intending? to
You know what?
consider it?
I gave my advice, do with
Okay,
it what
well,
you
here's what
will.
we're gonna-
I
here's what
don't
we're gonna
care.
do. I'll make a motion that we do the following. I knew you had a draft, but you told me you had a draft.
I,
You will continue to keep the draft and modify it, and I'll give you comments as per everything you did tonight. You will have the draft at our next meeting, whenever it is June. You have to make a decision about the date. You'll have that draft. We'll go through the public hearing. We'll presumably close the public hearing. And then if everything is hunky-dory, we'll
You
read the
can
draft.
prevent that and make any
Maybe,
changes.
and then changes,
that you
we'll
want
make that, and that'll be it. The new
I mean,
stuff.
and that's what you've done in the past, Jules.
That's what we used to do before.
Right,
We're
This-
going back to what we used to do before. Yeah.
Kind of.
Ish, ish.
kind of
If
ish.
we know that there's gonna be more input like at the public hearing. then I wouldn't
We
do
wait,
this.
right.
Yeah, then we waited, so.
All right.
There was nobody here.
We have a motion.
So there's a motion to do it that way.
You don't need a
Make the
motion.
motion.
Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do.
But can we discuss it a little bit more?
Hang on, Sam, let me finish this whole, let me close this out. And then why don't we leave it to the end to discuss it, because we can go around and around in circles on this.
Yeah.
Really, we could. We can't defy the law, but what we can do is find a loophole, and quite frankly, not even a loophole, we're just being accommodated. And we need to be,
Well, I guess-
and I'll recognize you as soon as I can. So Liz, you're all set, you and I have to talk, I saw the draft, there's some things that need to be added, you can doodle it, you have almost a month to doodle it, okay? And then we'll distribute it to the board. Okay, okay?
Or not distributed to
So
them.
I
We'll
would-
read it that night like we've done in the
Use
past.
that night.
Okay,
I would prefer that we just post the draft on the website a few days before, when we have it, when you're done doing your back and forth comments with it. Label it as a draft, title it draft decision. Because that to me feels like, whether it's more in keeping with the letter of the law, I don't know, but it's, to my mind, it's much more in keeping with the spirit. It's saying like, people should know what you're gonna vote on. We've gone through this review. We've all seen it. We're intending to vote on it unless we see something really dramatic or something really new comes up in the public hearing. It seems to me just like more honest and more in keeping with the intention of the law to post a draft.
can we do that?
Label it as a draft.
We can.
They're all labeled as draft, I think. right now. Every resolution is a draft resolution.
If we get no comments from the public, which we haven't had any yet, we can move forward accordingly. If we
I
get
guess you
public-
can just put it up as draft for consideration, should there be no further public comment.
And even when we're discussing it, we can even say, like, we've had a draft, does anyone on the board, in light of the public hearing,
Mhm.
have any amendments or whatever? I mean, it just feels more transparent.
No, I see what you're saying. I'm always thinking of it as what's, Joe Smith gonna say that, well, what's the difference? I didn't bother coming because they already knew what they were doing.
Well,
They wrote a decision.
Okay, so
The
I'll
long
take
and
your,
short is you can go through this.
We're trying.
Yeah, we're gonna
One way or
find,
the other.
I think we'll find.
all right,
we'll
Sam, I'll
always do
take
something
your,
for you.
all right,
your suggestion under advisement. I think we're done with Lucky for tonight.
All
Can I
right.
just
good.
ask one thing?
You're in good shape, but maybe not. Liz has some.
No, no, it's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So I believe there is another waiver ultimately. I don't think the board acted on it, and that has to do with the sign. waiver.
They acted on it. at
We
the
acted on
last
it last
meeting.
meeting.
We did.
Yep. We did.
That I
We did
remember.
actually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can go and look, but.
No, we
but
took a
I'm
vote, yeah.
sure we did.
We're good.
Okay, good.
Okay, you're good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
guys.
We'll know if it's gonna be 23rd, I guess, after today. If you can
Oh,
push it
do you
over
guys
to-
wanna,
We
I
should vote on
know
that
it's out
now.
of order, but do you
All right,
wanna
why
vote
don't
on that
we- why
now
don't you
so
just
they'll
sit for a
know?
second so you know? What I'd like to do is change our meeting to the 23rd of June. Let me make sure that I've got that correct. Hold on.
Let me
Everybody check
check
their
it.
calendars, please. And I will check mine. Thank you, Anne Marie.
Anne Marie.
All right, our meeting was supposed to be on the 20th, which is Juneteenth. And also,
No, actually, it's supposed to be, but I'm away.
13. The 13th.
It's supposed to be the
Oh,
13th, but
okay.
I'm away, and you said you would be
You're
much
right.
more comfortable if I was.
Sorry. So
Like,
I'd
yeah,
like to
Zoom.
do it the 23rd, which is a Thursday. And the primary reason is I want our attorney back. So who can make it? Raise your hand. Liz, you count, but you don't count. for
I know that I
quorum.
count, but I
So Rick
23rd of June.
of June, Sam, thank you,
I
Sam.
can make it. It is my least favorite night of the week, other than Friday.
But you can make it.
Because you're getting ready for your
It's
weekend.
Lock band practice. versus planning board meeting.
Rick, I'm out of
Really
state.
wanted more.
That I know. Ari, can you make it?
I am not sure, I might have to do in South Carolina.
Okay.
I
Patrick,
have to do 50-50.
so it's 50-50. Patrick,
23rd is fine.
okay, thank you. Jack,
I have other meetings.
I can use, so
I can make
You
that.
can't make it.
you cannot make it. I'm sure you're out of the country.
So,
So I got
I'm a
3,
yes.
I'm a yes,
Patrick's a yes.
Patrick's a yes, Rick is a yes, and then we'll have
And I'm
Anne
50-50, so if Anne Marie can come in, then you're okay.
I just need to, should have asked.
and just remember, any decision you make that night, if you only have 4 people,
Right.
will need to be unanimous and pass.
Yes.
Rick, is it better that we eventually look at the calendar to see if there's other dates that are maybe work, maybe a Thursday rather than a
I'm
Monday?
gonna start running in the light.
That is a Thursday.
What happened to the workshop? You know, the conference?
They usually are.
The
Not
workshop.
usually.
I thought about one other thing, Rick, too.
Also, 27th is the workshop, we can make the
I mean,
workshop the
that's-
regular.
I can't do that.
I guess, I know that you're more comfortable with me too. I get that. But you're really pushing applicants off a long time if you don't do it till the 27th. I mean, you could have the meeting without me here, and if there are things that you need clarified by me, you say, "Oh, we can't make a decision
I
until
agree
we
with
talk to our
I agree,
attorney."
we just said we need to
We'll
consult
have
with
to
our
check.
attorney.
So you're
Attorney
suggesting we
sit
go
down.
back to the original date?
Yeah, just keep it instead of,
That would be the 13th.
yeah.
I agree with that. It's just cleaner.
If there's something that comes up that we need Mary Lou, we
Okay.
will put it on.
There's not a specific thing that you're anticipating, right?
No,
That
I
possibly we could discuss.
was worried about,
And I said, I'm happy to talk to you the Friday before, anytime, you know, you and I can meet
well, we'll do our regular
Right.
meeting together.
before, so hopefully any legal issues.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we leave it at 13? So Qatar and we'll keep it 13.
All right.
All right, sorry for that melodrama.
Does that apply to the mental class the week before? I'll circulate a PDF of this just to make sure everybody has it.
PDF,
Yeah.
yeah, because we pretty much planned
You
to
have
done.
everything there.
Plans are-
I just have to put the sign where landscaping is.
You have to do that, and then there'll be conditions that we have to make sure you have.
Right,
that,
right,
but
he
you can
needs,
do that.
he needs something for us to look
I'm
at.
saying for you to look at it for the meeting, I'll just send a PDF.
That's
That's
fine.
I make 10 copies.
That's
This way you sign the final if everything's okay.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got the meeting date.
So the meeting is at 13. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is review of the grant. Mark and Maureen, you attended the workshop on that? You want to know?
Okay, so Lauren and I attended on,
And Mark, if I could, it's on your Google Drive, the material for the granary, under the granary.
I don't think we'll need any documentation.
Yeah. And this
We'll-
is
we'll be
just,
brief.
this is not to review it or anything, guys, this is just if we want to take to be lead agent or not, because the town is circulating that to be lead agency on this, or we would be an involved agency as the planning board makes decisions on it, so if we want to let them be lead agents.
So there was a whole bunch of conversation from the Ulster County Planning Board. This was sort of a pre-gateway meeting, because there was a lot of what ifs and do you likes and are you sures? Based on what Maren and I received from the information, the Ulster County Planning Board was exceptionally happy with the overall project. We had the opportunity to sit in and ask questions, answer questions, listen to the applicant and the town and their involvement, county's involvement, and Mary Lou's involvement. And Maren and I's consensus was we feel that the town should take lead agency because it is a good EEO project. And we feel that based on the Ulster County Planning Board's recommendation, they seem to have everything in check. And when it comes to us for site plan, that's when we can review our plan.
Let's just go around the table and probably doesn't make any
Maybe we'll
sense
do
to ask questions.
me
about-
first. 'Cause I have
Yeah, go ahead.
cents to add
Go
in,
ahead.
is most of the discussion, the discussion was around a lot of the parking, crosswalks, and as opposed to, quite often, we've had to give it a county road there, where they have not been amenable to crosswalk and that kind, they're quite amenable to making this so you can get on the rail trail, with the rail trail, which is a nice sign. And this is a case this is my humble opinion, as opposed to another case that we have, where this is an excellent application of the EEO. It's multiple uses that could not be done under our regular zoning code. They could never do all these things without getting variances, and it clearly is a property
Readapted.
readapt or reuse or whatever it is. So as a
Adaptive
adaptive
reuse.
reuse, so I think it's a wonderful, and it does touch a lot of things that I think the town should do on it.
Patrick? Yeah, good. I'm good with that recommendation. Sam?
Yeah, I'm good with it too. I guess I haven't dug into this, but one question I have just for Lauren, what were, it did not jump out immediately from a quick review that they couldn't do this without EEO. I didn't see them articulating that and the stuff like scan. Do you have a clear answer for? like,
Yeah, you might want to weigh in also, they didn't
For the
articulate,
scan,
they
like,
themselves
right?
didn't articulate very well, but there are so many we have multiple permitted uses we can do. There's so many of them, they overdo the number of multiple permitted uses.
Based on that area of the-
Right. with
Based on the density, based on the square, based on the
So it's like they could
acreage
do
that
like
they have.
5 uses hypothetically, but they have like 7.
Exactly,
Right.
based on
And then they would
the
need a use
acreage
variance.
that they have, yes, exactly.
Got it. Okay, thank you for that. Clear.
You okay, Sam?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Jordan?
I'm in agreement.
Okay, so we have unanimity.
If you want to,
So do we need to?
You
fill out a
can just
secret
sign it.
form?
It's already wrote.
You should actually make a motion to have that.
I'll do that.
Implying lead agency
Right,
status?
to consent to the town board being lead agent on the granary project, and you need a roll call vote on that.
Okay.
If somebody makes it.
So I'll make a motion that we consent to having the town board be lead agency on granary projects that are known as the granary EEO. Second by Zach, or roll call.
I'll do that.
Mr. Grasso?
Uh,
Aye, yeah, your name.
aye.
Ms. Lindstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Jones? Yes. Mr. Zarowski?
Yeah.
Mr. Pinsky? Mr.
Yes.
Mr.
Mr. Zach.
I like that.
All right, so adaptive reuse is similar to strategic ambivalence.
Now, the,
Okay, do I need to sign this?
you'll, if you want, I can write it out of it, but you need to sign it and. you need to,
So there are 2 questions there. So we're gonna be able to come on with the items.
It's so far away from particular items right now, that there's,
I mean, they are in
So we can
prelim.
leave it.
we don't need to say anything. Like the other one, there was a lot of stuff that was, we didn't really agree with a lot of the projects, there were a lot of comments on this one. This is like, they have the drone shot. Sit there and say like, oh yes, you win the crosswalk, you ready to plan, there's no renderings, there's no lighting, there's no nothing.
I will say that their plan to take Main Street Accord into the granary, vertically, and then horizontally across from the granary to go to the town board, and potentially this parking lot, which connects to the municipal lot. They have a good plan for that, and there seems like there's a lot of congruencies. You agree?
Exactly.
Yeah, so their ideology is right, but they are so far.
Like looking for sidewalk grants, and crossing grant, and all kinds
The
of,
funding is way
So-
beyond,
I think it's gonna be a great project.
it's a great project, yeah.
Parking,
if it
water,
all works out.
parking, water, and septic or sewer, whatever they're gonna do.
Yeah, and they have so many buildings that have their own water. and
They already
septic.
have a lot of work.
I think their biggest challenge will be they're at 5.2 for it. I'm like, sold to you 5.2, how about 7.3
Yeah.
and escalating?
5.2.
The
Million.
pricing $5.2 million to do it.
Good luck,
But
right?
that's none of us, exactly.
That's right, that's not our
none of
problem,
us.
that's their
They're
problem.
on the
They're-
grant search.
They're on the grant search, they know every possible.
How
given
many
they can
jobs
get a
have
grant.
they mentioned?
They don't quite know, actually.
How many jobs can you do?
Sorry?
Because every yoga instructor counts as a job.
Well,
The
Their
wellness
key number
center.
has to stay under 25.
Right. If they go over 25, then they have another level of scrutiny with,
For their water.
their water. but they have, when that question was asked, and it was like.
Crickets.
Over 25 people?
They have to have under 25 people or their scrutiny level of review goes
Don't they
to
look at, is it headcount or full-time equivalent?
They looked at,
FTEs.
full-time equivalents, and they consider a bed and breakfast, that kind of thing, a transient, because you're not there using the water every single, the employees
Right.
is a full-time equivalent employees there all the time, washing their hands, making. So that was the definition of the department.
All right, well, good. I think it's gonna be a great project. Walnut. Well, I think when we spoke, you were going to give some guidance on Walnut?
Just what's happened is because the town board is lead agent, whenever they get anything in on seeker from the applicant, they send it out to all of the involved agencies. So this went to you. If you have comments on this new stuff that came in, you can make them. If you don't, that's okay. It went to Department of Transport, went to DOT, but everybody who has to give an
So
approval. So
we're not, there's no deadline here. It's like,
there's not a deadline,
it's a
but,
courtesy update, and we'll still have an opportunity, obviously, we'll do a site plan.
right, but at some point, and I don't know when that will be. I don't know if it will be at their next meeting.
Right.
I don't know if it will be in August. I know they sent it to
Yeah.
CPL as well. I know that they want to get that guidance in before they do anything. However, they could do a pause or neg deck, whenever they feel they have enough information to do that. So if you have any comments you want to make, as a board,
To help them with their pause or neg deck, if we found something that maybe they didn't see.
All right, so if we have any comments on the latest transmission,
Well, I have another question for Mary Lou.
sure.
I've been very confused by the cover letters and the packages we've been receiving from the town board. And what's confusing to me is, I think this is what you were trying to speak to, and maybe I'm just dense. But when, my sense is when we've been lead agency and we're sending to other groups, and I may be wrong on this too, but our practice has been to say, we now believe this file is sufficiently complete for us to do seeker. Here is the completed packet.
Oh, I have no idea what we send out.
Like, please respond within 30 days.
Oh, I have to say, I don't know if we do that. I
That's
know
been
we do
my
that on
understanding,
the
maybe I'm wrong.
initial, but I don't know what other lead
So what is
agencies that do that.
unclear to me, okay, so that's helpful already, that like, if in fact we do that, which maybe
It means you're very kind.
so the actual responsibility of the town board is just to send us stuff as they receive it.
Yes,
And it is solely at our discretion to comment as we receive it, and it is solely at their discretion to determine whether it's sufficiently complete, and we do not have to be
Yes.
notified in any way.
and I do know it, right.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I know
So
at
the
this
cover
point,
letters that we're getting are saying that, like, comment if you want. We might do seeker tomorrow, we might do it in
December.
6 weeks.
right,
After
when
we
they
ask
feel
for
they,
more.
Yeah.
So if we feel, hey, this isn't ready for prime time yet, it's on us to say that because they have no obligation to give us an indication of whether they
Right.
think it's ready.
right.
Got it.
And I do know
answers my
that
question.
and this has not come in yet that I know of, that they were still waiting, and I think it's in the packages, they're still doing, they're archaeological, there was a letter from Joe Diamond.
Right.
That he's gonna be doing the archaeological, so, I
Oh,
can't
the
say when they're
cultural
gonna do it,
research
I don't think they're doing anything before July, but for all I know, they could do it at the workshop meeting if things.
Right, they could
I
do
have
it
no
tomorrow
idea.
if they want.
theoretically.
Yeah, well, at this point, they don't have,
Or like
I
they
don't
could.
think, because they don't have everything they've asked for. But yeah, it could
Or like
come in
they could
tomorrow, and I
tell you.
guess they could do it tomorrow, they have a meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah,
So let me do this.
audit meeting, and they have, public hearings, and they have a little special meeting.
Given the amorphous nature of, semi-amorphous nature of this stuff, how stuff is coming in, which I understand because it's a big project. And this board may want to make some comments at this point in time. We still get to do the site plan. Be happy to entertain those comments the same way that you gave comments last week on 3 different items, which was the moratorium, the ADU, and also the addition to the comprehensive plan. So in the same way that we did that, if we have comments, let's do it. So people who have, those who have comments, let's share them. And then I may ask one of the people who has the comments just to give a quick summary on behalf of the board to the town board to say at this point is our comments. I know we've given comments before. This thing has been 2 years in the making. Year and a half. I know we've given comments before, so. And they were pretty
Comments
thorough.
on the new
at that
material,
point.
basically.
And they were pretty thorough. Liz made comments. They were pretty thorough.
And Liz is gonna make comments again.
So
on
Yeah, I
these
mean, it
things.
looks like they did it.
So I have-
I
The
tried
floor
to
is-
be detailed, but I see problems.
the floor is open for anybody who has
You
comments.
want me to, I'll go through, a lot of this I can just give almost to Liz, but if you go through, if you everybody's got the secret there, if you look at B, governmental approvals. And BF, they are doing archaeological study, and should they have SHPO approval? Should SHPO be added to that list of, look at the Bs,
Involved agencies.
involved agencies, because it's just an oversight. I mean, if they send it to them, and SHPO does have, so it should be on this list of government approvals, fundings, blah, 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 blah. Same thing with Army Corps of Engineer and Ag and Markets.
So not on the involved,
They're not on this list of government agencies anywhere here. So there are Army Corps of Engineer wetlands, so they should be on there, and Ag and Markets should be on there too.
Liz,
have it on my
does
list,
Army
too.
Corps go on there? I know it's weird regulations with seeker.
Yeah, but they-
Because Army Corps, I don't believe is an involved agency.
No,
Under
They don't,
seeker, it's
like-
weird. It's weird how they have it written, and it's somewhat surprising.
I mean, I think if it's the,
Federal agencies generally aren't included.
only thing is you're looking at the neat agencies look over the whole route.
would it hurt to have them as an involved agency?
Well, I mean, they're potentially an interest, you can't be an involved agency unless
Gotcha.
you qualify
Well, I guess
as
it's-
involved agency.
In this thing, it isn't even like involved or interested, if yes, agency and approval is required, so federal agency, yes, it's a federal agency involved, the Army Corps of Engineers, and so they might need some approval from the.
But do they need an approval? That's the question. If they don't need an approval, they shouldn't be there, but if they do need an approval.
I don't know, my whole point is just to look it up, because
uh-huh.
we've sent a lot of stuff to Army
You
Corps
know
of
what, and
Engineers.
that's a, yeah,
That's a-
right, and I mean, that's a fair comment, please,
Figure it out.
please check to see if they need any permits from
Yeah,
Army
where
Corps
is
of
it? Are
Engineers.
they doing it?
Right, and then if you look at the narrative versus, at the end, the narrative comment, the narrative versus the other local agencies, yes, the building department had a floodway permit, and then they say they're not doing anything in the floodway, so why do you need a floodway permit? if You're not doing anything in the floodway. It's contradictory, just one or the other.
Aren't they taking something down the floodway?
They were before, but in this new stuff, it doesn't look like they're taking a building down. So the old
The
stuff,
old plan, they were taking it
They
down.
had proposals
and
to be
now
demolished.
it doesn't seem like.
Just get a clarification. I mean, they should keep the
Yeah, and I
record
think
running.
some of these things the town board actually discussed doing it. But that's okay,
Okay.
doesn't
And
matter
even
now,
now, we
we
just-
get,
They just say,
because
fine, we
this
did
is,
it, we
it
did it,
came
we
to you
did it.
before they, right, did that, so.
On the planning and zoning and C2, adopt a use plan. I would say perhaps yes, because it is a New York State Department of Transportation Scenic Byway, Shalonaka Mountain Regional Partnership. Jeff Kaplan is the contact, so that should be different on.
Yeah, that one they
C-
definitely,
They
I
got it?
remember them
Tell
telling
them
them,
about that.
yep, that they need to do that.
If you go to D,
Mhm.
project operations, D2C, will the proposed action use to create a new demand for water? This and the traffic are my key ones. So this is for you too, Liz. I don't know lowballing all of it. I can't understand a
Water
a
test.
water test, water go long report, but this is what I remember from Veritas Villas and the other stuff that we've gone through. Usage per person is about 60 to 80 per person per day gallons. That's.
So I mean, we usually go by 100.
They go by 110, okay?
110.
There are 39 bedrooms.
Like 110 per
Bedroom.
bedroom.
That's per bedroom, and then I read stuff, so there's 39 bedrooms, times 2 people per bedroom, times 60 to 80 gallons, that's 4680 to 6240, plus irrigation. And then I looked up irrigation, if you have 8 stations, you water twice a week, each station runs 50 minutes, that's almost 2,000 gallons. My point being, they're really at the low end of water. I don't know, I didn't read that whole big test to see what.
Very confusing. I don't understand it.
I didn't read any of it because it honestly just landed in my inbox.
Okay, so you just got it too,
And I haven't had a chance.
So the long and the short is, it looks really low ball from what we've heard and done before. I would be more comfortable if you're doing a project this size, grossing it up and highballing to make sure you don't run out of
water.
rather than run out of water.
And not
So
only that, but they were supposed to be testing contiguous wells on other property.
they did one,
They were doing,
They did too, but both of them happen to not be working.
they
Yeah, the
didn't,
monitor board was.
so they haven't really done a
they're supposed to do
hydrological,
drawdowns.
so they hadn't, they don't have any data
They
yet.
didn't do that either.
So
So
we-
they
didn't even beat it. Because the
monitor-
They did have a monitor well.
One at a time, so that the people can hear.
Pardon?
Is that how? Yeah,
Yes,
we
yes,
can comment.
we can comment.
You can comment on
Okay.
We can
anything
say
on
we think
secret.
this is insufficient, we're involved,
And they're
Even
required to
secret.
consider our comment.
right, and they're
So
required,
So clearly, we can comment, and
So
the
clearly
fact that
we
the
can call it-
monitors were broken, it's like,
Right.
you gotta go.
you gotta go
do
through
it
the
again.
test.
Do it again.
On that too, I would like, I mean, I think this is already happening, but I don't know how to read a water study. The first sentence says everything's great, and then when I look at the charts with like the projected, it's just like a line that's going down at a steady rate. And I don't know what that means.
That's why we have lists.
So what I would say as part of that comment too, is like have an engineer
That's explain.
paid for by the town to review it and
Exactly.
explain it in plain language so that the town board members,
Yep.
the people completing seeker can understand it, because I see those projected 100-day drawdowns on
That's
this
not
steady down, and it looks like the opposite of what I would want to see. But again, I'm a layperson, I fully know that I don't understand what this is saying.
And I don't know if the town gave them a scope where they just said.
I mean, it looked like a pretty
That's what I don't.
complete assessment. I just,
that was a
it was the most thorough thing I've seen. We've asked for well things, and all we get is like a letter from an engineer saying it's good. So they have this like they clearly did some meaningful.
I totally
evaluation,
agree.
which I applaud.
I mean, we're using Creighton Management, and when you see that, you go, oh, that's legit, you know?
So my.
But I also would not know what
But I
it means.
exactly, I
Sam.
totally agree. When they put in seeker, they put in 4,400 as their drawdown. I'm like cupping it, and I'm a total layperson. It looks like it might be higher, and wouldn't you want to like not be super exact? This is exactly it. Let's,
So make sure one person's on vacation every day.
right. Exactly. Kid, we cannot flush the toilet today. We gotta be at our, so it's the exact same comment on traffic, which we do that. in my opinion.
You know
Well, the
what, I wonder if traffic, I don't,
We expect people.
I mean,
They
traffic,
have to,
it should
And this
be
one,
DOT.
DOT,
should be all over.
It's got sent to the OT as well.
DOT, yeah, I mean, they'll look at access points and access standards, but they're not gonna look at volume.
exactly, and the volume
You will,
is.
though, right?
We will.
Yeah.
Okay, so you gotta look at this, Liz, I mean, all right, they keep saying, if the sites were reoccupied based on the historic uses. Mistake number one, because the historic use here was, it was the summer camp, of the youth. You know better. you know.
Right, 3 months a year, 3 days a week.
So,
And people would go there and stay there.
So
as
here's the thing,
opposed to if it's people living there, every one,
No,
somebody.
it's
they
been,
used to come up on buses from the city, so there was only 8 vehicles there and they were all buses.
Okay.
They would come for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Right.
and they would only be here for 3 months. There's no insulation in these buildings. They're summer camps. They're literally summer use only, if that makes sense. And it's been, it has to be at least 25 years since the place has been in operation of that. They've had their H-1B work visas and the people that have been
They had a
here,
couple, like 5 guys on each one.
Well,
Or
this is- you're
H2.
saying
but their
during
historic
AM
use is
Nothing.
3 months, 3 days a week.
In 1992,
When they're saying AM peak hours with 24 units, there's 12 trips.
it's ridiculous.
Like, I just don't understand, like, they're saying it's from charge, it's just like, yeah, it's just like a sniff test red flag.
Exactly. 'cause
How
look,
are 24 units, some of 40 total bedrooms, how are there only 12 people either entering or exiting?
Come on, there could be 2 people in every one of those bedrooms,
Plus a kid with the
plus a
school bus.
kid with the school
We have,
bus.
I was gonna say, we haven't talked about school buses, UPS deliveries, trash trucks in and out.
I just thought the numbers seemed just like
Way low.
surprisingly low without, like, I don't know, it sounds like they're using legit reference materials for this.
The reference material is going back to the historic. That's
Well, no,
that's not
they're
a
saying, but
reference.
they're doing the numbers that
They're
they're
saying
putting in.
as-
Like, what, and if you look at that chart in the traffic study, table 1 trip generation summary, it's like they're referencing the like Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation 11th edition industry standard, like they're using some verbiage, standard metric, which I don't know whether, like, what it is, oh, my job to know. But that's generating for them a number of 12 trips during AM peak hour, which I don't know what AM peak hour means. Is that saying like just between 7 and 8 AM, there's 12 trips?
7, 9.
Or is that, yeah. Like, again, I'm not honestly
I,
super concerned about more cars turning onto 209 because like it's a busy road, but like this feels.
you should be super concerned.
Yeah.
If you have those cars stacked up, if you have 70, I mean, in theory, the worst case, which will not be the case, 79 people, 78
Coming out in
people
1 hour.
coming out in 1 hour onto that road, with the school bus trying to get in, around a corner
Right.
there, this could be a
That corner's
traffic
bad.
disaster.
If the school bus,
55 miles an hour.
if the school bus is even gonna go with.
We
Right,
require, we
that's true, too.
require, if the school bus is supposed to, but they might not. How about the mail?
Right.
The
Were they gonna
What
push
are they
the
gonna
mail?
do? Was the mail gonna be, it's gonna be on the road, the mail stops there, going, the school bus is stopping, is
Our
only
comment
79
is
people are coming through?
review, make sure that CPL reviews the traffic study for adequacy, I guess.
Exactly. It
It
doesn't,
just
as
like
you said,
seems wrong.
it doesn't pass the smell test.
Well, I think it's, I don't know what, again, don't know if there was a scope for the traffic
Right.
study. And so what they'll probably do is look at it, talk about anything that's missing in the scope of what they
Right.
provided. You know, question any of their ITE values, question, what do you mean by hour?
So what
Usually
happens?
there's AM, PM, weekday,
Yeah, they have AM peak and. PM.
and
All
Saturday.
they have.
So what happens if the town board didn't scope it out properly?
I don't think the town board
That can
scoped
be
anything.
sort of dealt with
Yeah,
in
they
review.
didn't scope
It's not like you have to have an adopted scope, but if they're submitting a traffic study, you know, I'm just saying, traffic engineers will look at a whole bunch of things, including what ITE value you use, is it appropriate for use? Is it appropriate ITE value?
So I guess,
What is the peak for this kind of use?
Right.
And
You're gonna make sure everything that really needs to be covered is covered, and if it's not, you're gonna say, provide that, recommend that.
right, so I guess that's.
Provision.
We didn't do that on
Or
our.
what else do you have?
No, that was, my recommendation is exactly, this doesn't pass the smell test, as he said. A real person should have a look at this, because on my father's grave, there's not gonna be just 10 people going out
And
and
it might be beneficial to even put a traffic light there.
don't find it.
Like,
They never do,
right, but it'll be smart.
yes.
Okay, I respect what you've done, everything, but in my mind, I'm very confused. They are lead agents. Our responsibility is decide.
No, we're an
No,
involved
We're involved in
agency.
So if
We
you
make
involve
recommendations.
agencies, we advise you or we tell
They-
them?
They are the lead agency, it's a coordinated review. So every agency that has to give some sort of approval gets everything sent to them to review, and you may make comments on that to the lead agency.
Approval basically expert. Right?
No, approval
No.
meaning we eventually will have to issue a site plan approval, therefore, we have the right under seeker to say
There's our
whether we think
concerns.
there's sufficient information or based on the things that we're gonna be looking at. Or based on anything else.
Anything else?
So
That
it's a
relates
part
to
of the,
secret.
part of the site plan.
No.
No,
So this is part of seeker review is for you guys to be able to give your input.
Because we don't.
Although you won't make the ultimate decision, the town board will. Your input is requested to those things that you find important or lacking, et cetera.
And it will come to us for site.
And then if it's approved for an EEO, it will then come to you, but seeker will be done at that.
We don't get to do it yet.
So you'll be,
So let me
You
ask,
get to be
Shouldn't
part
be
of
the
this.
discussion, part of our agenda. So everybody can
it
go
is,
through
it was at this one.
That's
No,
what
it
we
showed
did.
up, it showed, sorry, it showed up this morning.
Yeah, but it just came in to us.
On the agenda.
yes,
Yes,
well,
because it just came to
Nicole
us.
sent it.
it's been sitting in there. You've got to look also beside the agenda, you got to look at what is in.
It's sitting there, but when.
And Nicole.
All right, all right.
Okay, yeah, right.
let's just.
Let's go very quickly.
But I do have
um,
one,
I
let's
just
keep
have
going, but I have one more, go ahead.
two quick, the quick ones on the site and setting, Liz also. The land use and color type, it does a E1, that's it. The numbers don't add up. So if you go to E1B, it's a 15-acre parcel, and they just talk about 7.6 of meadowlands, and then the disturbance, and then that 7, 2 are changing, and you end up with 5, but then they have a different number for the buildings. It doesn't add up to the size of the parcel. So it's that size of the parcel. And then E3G should be blank if they don't know it yet, and E3H, they need to get all of the yes answers. And then this is very, very quickly on the narrative, which is to apply to seeker. We already covered this. They keep mentioning to bring back to the original, the overall impact study, not to exceed the original, but the original is superfluous on this because the original is nothing to do with it. Because of the seasonality and et cetera, so they should change their narrative or amend their narrative or something along those lines to reflect. They're not going back to what was, or if they do that, they get rid of all of these apartments. People stay there for a couple of weekends.
So I have a process question, and just going back to, Nicole did send this out a while ago.
Yes.
And she sent it to all the board members.
Yep. Totally as an email and sent it within the G drive. So
You
it
got
was
it.
there.
When, the rate?
What do you
Well, that was
mean?
that was the question I was trying to ask Mary Lou, because I shared your confusion on that, Tori, and we got these packets with what were to me confusing cover letters. So it's like, you can comment if you want, the timeline is unknown. So we could say in our response, we could send a comment to the town board saying, you know, we would like, you know, please give us notice when you expect to do seeker, so we have a chance to do another review. We could ask for that. But what Mary Lou is saying is, they don't have to say yes.
So, would you
I'll draft-
propose that,
Send them to me.
I'll draft all this.
and we'll send it
Make sure
officially?
everyone's in agreement, which I think they are, but
Exactly what-
I thought.
I will in a sec, hold on, in a second. I want to send it officially from the planning board. Lauren just went through all the comments. Is there anybody who wants to add anything?
I want to make sure that the non-functioning monitor
Yeah.
situation is addressed, because that's going to be critical to.
Yeah, the monitors were supposed to detect the drawdown and then the draw up. So when you draw down the water, there's a specific amount of time that it should come back up to the original level. And if it doesn't, there's a calculation that they do to say, well, we don't have enough water for the.
Right, well, the refill rate,
So-
but that's not even, that's on the wells that they're using, I'm talking about the one. the
No, even
monitor
on the neighbors,
On the native,
they're supposed to detect if there's any drawdown on the.
right,
on the
if
neighbors.
they're gonna get stuck in their well dry.
Exactly.
All right, so Patrick, anybody have any other comments?
I'll add that in.
Yeah, I have some, and maybe Liz is already being addressed, but they have this May 4th response to the May 26th, 2021 CPL letter, so it's like almost a year after. And some of the responses that they had, I'm sure there'll be a back and forth, but there's a lot of like, we don't think that's relevant, or TBD kind of stuff. And, you know, without getting into all of it, like one of them that jumped out, the comment F, existing principal and accessory structures, including numbers of existing dwellings and bedrooms or number of lodging units. And they're saying precise number of units is not relevant. Yet they're using like, in the narrative, they keep saying things about existing conditions. And like,
It's pretty damn dry.
and they're saying like the number of bedrooms in a building that they're gonna renovate is unknown, they say in the narrative.
Well, they
I'm like,
changed it twice since the original.
well, it's just like, I just don't understand why that can't be clarified.
Because you can't do seeker, because you cannot get to a negative deck on seeker without your questions being
Right.
answered. Because if the to be determined apartment building, apartments, let's make it up, is 200, or if it's 20,
This is the existing
then
condition.
you, right, or whatever,
It's a big, very,
it's a big
Well, and then
variance.
there was also stuff about like, well, there's a lot of stuff, this information is pending and will be reflected on final design plan. And it's out, it's in response to questions like outlining existing site vegetation intended to be preserved or maintained, including wooded areas, trees, landscape areas, lawns. Right, so that clearly is related to seeker, because if their final design is we're gonna bulldoze all of it, pave it, that's obviously different than we're gonna preserve all of it, or some of it's gonna be removed and then we're gonna place it with this. You know, there's a bunch of stuff, outline corresponding existing site vegetation and to be removed. This information is pending. Like, and there's a lot of that. Delineate an approximate conceptual limit of disturbance. The limit of disturbance is pending as final design will be developed. Like, there's just a lot of that on things like, you're not even saying, you're not even asking for like, we want your final LOD. You're saying like, show us a conceptual LOD so we get a sense, and they're saying no. And I don't feel like,
Yep.
I'm gonna defer to water engineers, traffic engineers, but like, if they can't even draw a line saying like, this is where we think. Stuff is going. I mean, other question I had on was on this, again, not a septic designer, if they get DOE permits, that's fine. But this came up the last time we commented. There's some stuff with just like basic topography. They don't identify any pumping stations, but they're moving sewage hundreds of feet at the very, well, if not uphill, at least at a flat elevation.
Oh, it's up to those front lines, is up there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It's up there.
What, it's, depending on how deep the pipes are, it might not be uphill, but still, like, it's a question, is like how, like, I'd want to see what, like, I don't know what the name is, almost like you have a driveway profile, like, what's the
Septic
Yeah.
profile.
a septic profile, like,
Exodus.
you don't need a
Well,
pumping
there's a
station.
formula to
Right,
follow for drainage flow from a septic.
and like, maybe it's not fully designed, but if there needs to be things like pumping stations, like, that should be part of the seeker review.
Yep.
Like, even if that's not a, you know, the DOH issued permits or not, that's fine. But like, just the way it's laid out, there's a lot of laterals with elevations that aren't, it's
So-
not obvious how it would work.
So Sam, how much more do you have?
That was it, those are my comments.
So
Can you write those up too?
I have a lot of.
if you can write them up and give them to Lauren, and then Lauren, you and I can maybe collaborate and we've sent previous memos, we've talked about this over and over again. I think it's time just to say, hey, look, guys, this is a foo bar.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
I
won't
think
tell
we
you
made a
what
lot of
foo,
progress.
I won't tell you what foo bar means, so some of
We
you
don't-
know what
we
it
know.
stands for. So let me ask you something else, Madam Attorney. If for whatever reason, the town board approves this, approves a secret, designate deck, and misses a lot of the points that have been made, or whatever, and we get it as a site plan, and we look at it and we say, this is a foo bar. What do we do with it? Knowing that
Well, I
a
mean,
lot of these points,
Yeah,
I
still
can't
be
guarantee
site
that
plan.
these
And
things.
I think some of it's gonna depend on if things change after secret. You may be able to then have them.
But we have such, it sounds like they didn't even answer basic questions from a year and a half ago.
But they haven't done secret yet, right?
Right, but they have not, I mean, and that's why this is sent to us.
And our comment now
And they
is,
did identify a number of things themselves at the last meeting.
They being the town board?
The town board. The town board identified a number of things besides sending it to Liz and sending it to all the.
So we just need to.
But on the
issue
EAF itself, where they said, you have to correct this, or, and a number of things that.
We just need to be real
Not all of
strong
them, but.
about, we don't want to see, we don't want a site plan that you expect us to rubber stamp when all of the significant items are not. And I'm not, the town board can't address them, the applicant has to address them. I don't want to get a site plan that's a mess.
But it also is possible for them to provide a conceptual plan, it doesn't have to be detailed, and the other thing, it's possible to provide a table of, you know, conceptual existing
So,
conditions, values, proposed action values, impact values, and.
so our response to them needs to be gracious and kind and all that, but pretty direct about, come on, guys. It's a year and a half.
Mary Lou, as our attorney, do you feel that the town board has enough to make this determination today?
They don't feel they have enough there.
Because I watched the meeting and there was some
Maybe they need
serious
help.
conflict of,
I don't think, I mean, I don't
one
know.
person
what's
thought
gonna
it
happen.
was, they had enough, another person didn't think they had enough, but they moved on anyway, so it was like,
Oh, no, all they were doing at that last meeting was going through the EAF and saying, what's missing, what's incorrect, that's all they were doing.
right, but I heard, and you could tell me, I mean, how I took the context is, it felt like some people thought they had what they wanted, what they should have had, and others didn't.
Oh, I did not get that.
Okay.
I did not, but you were
I felt
probably
like
in
they
the-
were missing a lot of
You were
things.
probably in the room. I was on the,
Yeah, I felt
I
like
was
they
on
were
the big
missing a lot of
screen.
things, and some people thought that what they had was adequate, which,
So why don't we
Oh, I-
compile something? We'll circulate it to the board. I'm gonna give you like a day or two, and then we'll get the board members with it. Please get any comments within a day or two.
no, you have, it's board comments. You have to vote that these are the comments you want.
Well, we'll bring it back in June then.
And you can do that if they
I'll bring
haven't
it
done
back in
it.
June. If we can get this done by our June meeting.
we could have this typed up tomorrow.
But you could do this, and then if they have not made an exec, now that your June meeting is going to be the 13th again,
You have enough
I don't
time.
think they're going to. I don't, they could, but I do not see them taking any, I don't see Liz having a report to them by tomorrow or next Thursday,
So then we could
when
just
their
get our
meetings
meeting,
are.
Put it on
So,
the agenda to talk at our June meeting.
so,
Okay.
right, but you could, just in
Write it
case,
all
you
up.
might want to get these things out now.
Yep.
And you can always send them a supplemental decision.
What she
after
said is
your
good.
June
I think
meeting.
we should vote to send to the town board Sam's comments, my comments, and Patrick's comments as it is now. And this is where we stand at this juncture, nicely but firmly. And send it, and we can get together, you can review everything, and see if it looks good, comes out from you. And then we can
Add something.
add supplement later if.
Right, if you. if
So you
find
comfortable,
a
you
place.
can reflect the comments?
Yep. We took
I
great
have
notes.
great notes.
Okay, so why doesn't someone make up, what's that?
I just made a
motion?
motion, that was the
Oh,
motion. That was the motion you do that.
I'd like to hear if Mark has good notes, you just summarize them quickly as part of. So we know. what
Lauren
we're
has her
doing.
items plus narratives and notes. Zach mentioned traffic concerns. Sam mentioned seeker, not the ability to get it done because the unit numbers have changed. To be determined as mentioned on their notes. Bedrooms changes, variances and septic plans. Sorian didn't have anything to bring to the table yet. Mark has issues about septic, and Patrick mentioned the historic and not originality of use.
And he also mentioned, which I have down, that the water monitors and water testing in the nearby, in the adjacent
Neighbor-
properties, so just let's make sure you're not taking all their water or non-functional, so it needs to be.
Okay.
And I think,
Is there there's a motion on the table? Does anybody want to second it and then discuss anything else? Anybody want to second it? Zach, you second any discussion?
Wait, what's the motion, Rick? I'm sorry.
The motion is done, Mark.
Yeah, to compose a letter commenting on.
Responses to
A response to the letter with my comments on it, with Sam's comments, with that you have noted, and also adding in Patrick's comment with the everything that you did, basically as noted by you, everybody's additional comments.
Got it.
So
Combining
that's the
it.
motion. The second was made by Zach. Any discussion on
discussion that I think we should emphasize maybe 3 points. One is,
I don't know if the whole board agrees, but like, one is that I think that the packet, since the new engineer came in, is like substantially more detailed, and we can like say, thanks for that. And then the second thing is just like engineering review of the water and traffic stuff, because it's like, call that out, like, we should make the points, our specific points, but say like, we're amateurs.
Yeah.
We would retain our own expert if we were lead agency and the request.
Third one.
Third,
That was the third, I was, sorry, the water and the traffic.
All right, all in
So
favor?
2 points.
So you're amending the motion to include
I would
Sam's
amend
most
also-
recent comments?
to include Sam's comments of the engineering review and also thanking them for the more detailed application.
Okay, with that, addition
Second.
to it, we have the second.
Second that?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Good.
All right.
Gotta make a good record on that. Sorry.
And it's being recorded, so we will
All right,
make
we're
sure the
good.
minutes reflect that.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second motion. From Sam, second.
Second.
Go ahead. Oh, wow. it's already-
Oh.
All in favor?
Aye.
What time?
7:45.
Record time.
7:45.
I just want to say that was a really good meeting, and I want to thank you for being so efficient, because I must be in the brown recliner when the third period of the Ranger meeting starts, or they will lose. I gotta go.
Let me through this one. Sammy, you got us
No, they won.
Oh, they won?
They won, yeah.
Thank you.
They were
Yeah,
down,
I have to remember that.
they were down 3-1. They won the next meeting.